morning, Wareham. It is Wednesday, April 3rd. We have a great show here for you, the news headlines, weather report, and today in history. On today's show, we will be traveling to Bogota, Colombia to follow artifactors looking behind their orange peel jewelry. And also Grace Morrison, a local singer-songwriter from Wareham, is going to talk about one of her albums. This was the first full album she produced, I Am the Apple. And the legend comes to life at Elizabeth and Company Home Offerings. Learn how Skip Weight makes his Russian fan birds. But first, let's take a moment to thank Not Your Average Antiques, an antique shop down Cranberry Highway in East Wareham, for donating the props that you see in the Good Morning Wareham set. Stay with us. The weather, traffic, and the news headlines are next. Today partly cloudy with high at 47 and low at 36. However, Thursday, that is tomorrow, sunshine and clouds will be a mix, high at 53 and low at 28. Expect normal traffic at Route 3 and 495. Weather conditions are good. Safe travels, everyone. And now to the news. There were a few news headlines over the week, and here are the headlines. Wareham newspaper published the results of yesterday's election. And for the selectman race, Jim Menis, a newcomer to the board, received the most votes of any selectman hopeful, with 891 votes going to him. Incumbent Patrick Tropiano survived the election by 68 votes over incumbent Anthony Scaziati. April Rossi won the three-candidate race for school committee against Jennifer Bailey and Jeff Sweat. The town clerk race was won by Michelle Bissonnette. Jean Kenaten won the election for the housing authority against challenger Jody Stangate. A total of 1,338 people voted yesterday, which was 9% of turnout. Results are set to be certified by the town clerk, Mary Ann Silva, today. And to another news, citizens' petition proposes renaming Onset Pier after a longtime harbor master. Town voters will have the opportunity to rename the Onset Pier in honor of a longtime harbor master, Harry Bessie, at the town meeting on April 22nd. The citizens' petition is brought by Mike Bessie, Harry Bessie's nephew, and the owner of Indian Cove Aquaculture, along with the Wareham Veterans Council. Harry Bessie was born in Wareham on November 3rd, 1915. He served as Harbor Patrol from 1960 to 1985. The Veterans Council and Mike Bessie proposed renaming the Onset Pier and dedicating it as the Harry C. Bessie Memorial Pier, with a sign placed on the pier and a dedication ceremony. An alternative proposal, which will be voted on Selectmen Board at in today's meeting, will instead place a memorial maker at one of the entrance to the pier. That is all for the news headlines this morning. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Another journey to Bogota, Colombia. We are following Artifactos, a jewelry company that makes its products using biodegradable materials such as seeds and orange peels. Today we are going to learn how the orange peel process takes place. Here is Artifactos, a look behind the orange peel jewelry.
Hello, my name is Angela Sanchez, founder and CEO of Artifactos. Artifactos is an eco-exotic statement jewelry business that features hand-woven designs by unprivileged women in Latin America. Our boldly colored pieces are made out of 100% recycled, all-natural materials like orange peel and coffee beans. Recently, we went back to Bogota with WCTV to visit the artisans behind the jewelry I'm wearing. Join us in this segment as I take you behind the scenes to learn the labor and techniques of Artifactos' famous orange peel jewelry and meet Catherine, one of Artifactos' orange peel artists. Today we are gonna go and visit Catherine in Suba, and she is gonna explain us the whole orange peel process. I'm very excited about even going to pick up the garbage and the whole process.
Gracias, muy amable. Hola, ¿cómo le va, Caterina?
So every day they have orange peels.
How many pounds?
That's at least 40 pounds.
They don't work. They're going to take just a little bit because they don't work only right away. It will go back.
Yeah.
So, and it's heavy, so we're going to take just a little bit.
And they have it every day, right?
Yeah, every day.
So what we found out about the orange peel process is that it is not only time consuming but messy and labor intensive too. There are a few hot spots that Kathleen seeks orange peels. This particular place is a shopping center located about 20 minutes from her apartment. Many street juice vendors make freshly squeezed orange juice here, and so it's always guaranteed that she will find some orange peels.
Entonces aquí ya hay una de las grandes.
It's a big flower.
Qué bonito. Ya igual ella se achica más cuando se seca y cuando se tintura crece otro poquito más.
When it dries, it's gonna become smaller, and then when she dyes it, it's gonna go back big again.
Por ejemplo, los nombres no son como uno, digamos, la fucsia se llama rodamina, es el color, el nombre del color. Aquí está.
So this is the color we are going to do today. So sometimes the color of the dye is not necessarily what is the final product. So they have to play a lot with colors too. So these flowers are already dry. They've been drying for 4 days and now they are going to be dyed. She says that one of the characteristics of the orange peel is that it's very flexible and it doesn't break easily. So we noticed that when she was cleaning it, and then so they are easier to manage because they are not going to break that easily. And they grew or they got expanded a little bit when we dyed them. So now they are going to be there for the next 4 days to get dry.
Y mira, ya medio las toqué y ya queda una tintura.
Thank you so much for watching from Artefactos. I am Angela Sanchez.
You can find Artefactos online. And moving on, Grace Morrison, a singer-songwriter born and raised in Wareham. About a year ago, she released her first full album, I Am the Apple. I met up with Grace to learn about her album, her music, and a little bit about her upbringing. Here is Grace. Hello and welcome to the sit-down interview with Grace Morrison, a local singer-songwriter from Wareham, Massachusetts, here to talk about her newly released album, I Am the Apple. Hello, Grace.
Hello.
How are you?
Wonderful. How are you?
Very well, thanks. You look beautiful.
Thank you.
So I'm thinking let's begin with getting to know you.
Sure.
You grew up in Wareham, right? Tell me about your life, your upbringing.
So I grew up in Parkwood Beach. I don't know if you're familiar with Parkwood Beach. It's a tiny little neighborhood in a house with no heat, which I think should have made me tougher than it did.
But you say in terms of tough life, I mean, you are an oops baby, right? You say your
yes.
siblings, your brothers are much older than you are, like 20 years older than you are?
Yeah, they were 23 when I was born.
Okay, so tell me the story behind that.
Well, so I think my mom was under the impression she could have no more kids.
Okay.
And she wasn't feeling good for a little while.
Okay.
And my dad said, maybe you're pregnant. She said, I am absolutely not. And here I am. Surprise!
Now, they did warn your mom that there could possibly be some implications with her pregnancy, right?
Yeah, so I think back then they had just started noticing the correlation between older moms and Down syndrome. So they were suggesting that she abort.
Oh,
but she didn't.
But she didn't. So you were fighting from day one.
That's right. I am so tough.
Okay, so you tell me that you grew up in a very poor family, no heat.
Yeah.
Was that normal to you, or did you feel like there's something lacking?
No, I didn't. That was just what I knew.
Okay.
And my parents made sure that I always had new clothes for school, and no matter what it took, I had braces. I mean, people helped my family, but I didn't know that.
Okay.
I had all the things I needed, and we just didn't have any heat.
Wow.
And I knew I couldn't get a computer. I knew bigger things like that. But in general, I wasn't.
You didn't feel deprived in any way?
No.
All right. Very good.
Yeah.
Now then, years later, you end up finding music.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me how you end up falling in love with music.
Yeah, I mean, I started playing because I was so shy. Like, I would follow my mother around behind her and put my head under her shirt. I was terrified of people. So my dad obviously realized this was an issue, and he started with, let's get her into sports.
Okay.
And so they said, let's do soccer. And I was like, sure, yeah, I'll play soccer. And they got me all dressed up and got to the Wareham youth soccer field. I hadn't realized that meant other kids. And it was a field of other kids. I was like, no, I am not doing soccer. So he changed plans, and we did piano, and because it was just another adult and me, and I was comfortable, and I was just good at it naturally. Mm-hmm. But falling in love with it really wasn't until I saw the band Hanson, because they were kids that were playing instruments and writing songs, and I said, well, I can do that. And I said, okay, I'm going to do that, and I went home and I wrote a song.
And what was your first song?
I think it was something about a bluebird.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember how it went?
No.
On myself, blaming the winter on you.
This main interview is to talk about your newly released album, I Am the Apple, and what makes this album so special is that it is your first full-length CD.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the album, the inspiration behind it, the songs in it.
Sure. The songs are kind of all over the place. So I think people who've heard me play for a long time are used to me singing about history, which is still on there, but there's a more personal aspect as well.
Okay, and speaking of a personal aspect, this song called A Big Man, the Big Man, I think.
Yes,
Is it the
yes.
Big Man? Okay.
It is.
So I have a feeling, correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Is that, okay, first of all, somebody you were involved with
Yes.
and ended up breaking your heart?
Yes.
Do they know you have a song about them?
Actually, I don't know if he's smart enough to have picked it up, but I was singing at the Gateway Tavern one night,
Okay.
and I was introducing that song, and in he walked, and I sang it right to him. Mm-hmm. It was
You're getting so much satisfaction.
well, you write a song like that trying to tell somebody off, and you imagine singing it to them, and to actually get to have that experience is very cathartic.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about this guy. And how he ended up breaking your heart so bad that he deserves a song. I mean, I wish my ex-boyfriends have talents of writing songs about me. That would be
It was
cool.
one of these scenarios where this man presented himself to me as this big, macho, single man. And he was none of those things. Mm-hmm. Yep, so he got a number of songs, actually.
Oh, it felt like a glove. How you used me for love, you devil. I dodged a bullet when you lost your nerve. I'm better than a midnight ride. I'm better than the love of your life. You're feeling like a big man now. Gold wrappers are the center of your worth. You're feeling like you got some girth. You're feeling like a big man now. Oh, it fit like a glove. How you used me for love, you devil. I dodged a bullet when you lost your nerve.
And you have the song I Am the Apple, which of course is also the title of your album. Let's talk about that song. What does it mean?
Yeah, so that song's actually about the same guy.
Okay, wow.
And honestly, I was trying to be kind of a tough guy. And the biggest threat I could come up with there was, well, if you were standing underneath an apple tree and I was the apple, I would fall on your head.
Okay.
But the idea, I titled the album that because it's a pretty versatile image, because you've got like the apple of my eye.
Okay.
And New York is the Big Apple. But it could also be like a rotten apple. So and you see it all throughout history. I mean, think about the Adam and Eve story.
Yes.
And it's everywhere. So it could mean anything.
And you also did a song about, I think, Bring Johnny Home?
Yes,
Okay, was that your uncle?
it was.
Okay, tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about that.
Sure. So my uncle was a lifelong Wareham resident as well. And growing up, I didn't really get to interact with him much because he struggled with addiction for his whole life. But when my mom used to tell me, oh, he went to the war, but when he came back, he was a whole different person. And so a couple of years ago, he was dying, and I started going to visit him, and he told me his story. And I guess what happened, he was like 16 years old, and he got into some trouble, and the judge said, well, you can go to jail or join the Marine Corps. And so a 16-year-old kid, it was pretty clear he was joining the Marine Corps, and he wound up in Vietnam. And, you know, he said he came home, and he kissed the ground when he got here, but he never really felt like he came home. I mean, the greeting our soldiers got when they came home from Vietnam was not pleasant.
Yes.
And so, you know, in getting to know him at the end of his life, we were looking at pictures together and talking about his experiences. And some of the pictures I saw, I can't get out of my head. And I was thinking, you know, if just these old pictures affect me so much, imagine the people who had to live through it, what they live with. And to me, it explained his addiction. And I think that a lot of our soldiers struggle with that. And it's still kind of taboo to talk about emotional health. It's not, it seems weak to a lot of people to admit that they have these issues. So I wanted to kind of highlight that.
Stole a doctor's purse of pills. His bank was richer than mine. Lock me up and said, you got a choice, boy. Your neck is mine. So we ride, we float to the highest hills and the lowest of lows. Now we're taking Johnny home to his house up in the mountains. Taking Johnny home past the sycamore tree. Taking Johnny home where his mama will be waiting. She'll know it's the devil in me.
For what I've seen, like other musical covers, right? Especially nowadays, as a young artist or anybody really wanted to launch your career, as a woman, you find yourself like you have to use your body.
Yeah.
And I saw your album cover. No, it's just an apple, kind of like bullet going, you know, through it, and it's beautiful. But in my head, I'm like, wouldn't you go with like putting your body out there, kind of talking about I'm the apple, like holding it right there, kind of making people stop and grab the CD?
So I fight with that
Okay.
idea for a number of reasons.
All right.
Because I understand, like, when you're a performer, you have to present nicely, right? Like, you have to dress nice. But I find that people comment on my appearance, but they don't comment on the men that play with me. For whatever reason, these men get a free pass, and for women, it's a completely different thing. Like, we're held to a different standard visually.
Yes.
So there's that part of it. I didn't really want to give into that. But my brother is one of the main reasons I started writing songs. He kind of showed me how to do it, and he bought me all this equipment. And I remember every Thursday he'd pick me up from Wareham Middle School, and we'd go to Lindsay's, and we'd talk about music. And one day he said, you know, I hate when women, or not, he didn't say women, but when artists use their sex appeal on to sell a CD, because it should be about the content. And I never forgot that.
I feel you got it all. You have the personality. You can write songs. You know, you play guitar. You sing so well.
Thank you.
So my question is, have you ever considered going to shows like America's Got Talent or The Voice? Have you considered such thing?
I have.
Okay.
I have. I auditioned for American Idol years and years ago, but I think I don't consider myself a singer. You know what I mean? Like, I do what I do well, but I am more of a storyteller. I am fascinated by history and trying to tell stories of people who may not have had their story shared before.
Very good. So what's next for you?
Well, we're going on tour in October, and trying to plan out the rest of the year doing some bigger festivals and concerts. And I'm going to be at the Spire Center in Plymouth, which is an amazing concert venue. And really trying to take the next level up as far as the venues we play and
Very good.
traveling more. Yeah.
It's really refreshing to see artists like yourself.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. How adorable. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me to talk about your music, your new album.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and listen to more of it.
Thank you.
And for our viewers, for those who are interested in seeing Grace Morrison live, your next concert is going to be on September 16th, right?
I have
Saturday?
September 16th at the Big E.
Yes.
September 17th, I'll be in Connecticut. But the one I would really love to get people to is November 10th at the Spire Center in Plymouth, Massachusetts. It's a beautiful venue.
So to get more information about Grace Morrison, please visit her website, gracemorrison.com.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for joining us in this interview. I wish you a wonderful day.
You tell her that you love her on the phone. This don't hurt you like it hurts me. I'm the apple on the tree. Boy, you're standing under me. I am falling to the ground. Why do you look on the street? Maybe you love even me. I am falling to the ground.
Thank you for being with us this morning. This is Good Morning Wareham, your source for local news, weather, traffic, and more information. And now for a moment in history, let's take a look at where we were today in history. In 1942, the Japanese launched an attack on Bataan during World War II. This would end up leading to the largest number of American troops surrendering in the United States history, as troops were becoming starved and sick. Today in 1882 was the day that the notorious outlaw Jesse James was killed. The legendary bank robber lived a risky life in the Wild West and is still remembered today for living the cowboy life. And also today in 1922, long-lasting Soviet leader Joseph Stalin was appointed by Vladimir Lenin. Stalin would last in power throughout World War II until his death in 1953. Though he and this nation worked together though he and Americans worked together for some time, they would later become heated enemies during the Cold War. And of course, we have the birthdays today, and today we are celebrating a birthday of Early Leard, the first African-American NBA player. Born in 1928, he joined the Washington Capitals for 7 games in 1950. He would spend most of his career with Syracuse Nationals. That is all for the Today in History segment. To learn more about cool historical facts, please go online at thehistory.com. Stay with us. We'll be right back with the coffee segment. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us this morning for the Good Morning Wareham show, broadcasting live from our WCTV studio in Wareham. For our coffee segment, we are going to learn how to make the Russian fan birds with the help of Skip Waite, a local whittler working at Echo Elizabeth and Company Home Offerings. Take a look. In this WCTV special program, Skip Waite shows us how he makes his Russian fan birds.
And I make them from the beginning to the end. First thing I do is I get a nice green piece of pine that I got from Williams Sawmill over in Wareham, Mass. They're kind enough to donate it. And I have to take this froe, it's called a froe, this tool, and split this wood so that I can make a fan bird. And you can watch me split one. I've already quartered it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this just like this. That's a good spot. Don't mind the noise. This froe is what the Pilgrims used to use to make shingles. Works very good for that, but I'm using it to make a bird. All right, there's phase one. Nice green piece of wood. Now, phase two. Let me get this to stand up. There you go. Good. Now I'll take my froe, and I'm going to cut it like this. This way first, like that. Nice. Now we'll do it again. Oh, nice. Look at that. That could be a shingle. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Nice straight grain. That's what I need, is a nice straight grain. And we'll do it one more time. All right. Those Pilgrims worked pretty hard, you know that? Oh, look at that. There's my first Russian fan bird of the day. Will you wait to see what we do next? All right, let's go in and get this prepared. Okay, so we've got our piece of wood now. Our next thing is we've got to make this fairly smooth. Not flat, but fairly smooth, and clean it up a little bit. So I'm going to get my trusty froe out again here. And we're just going to give this a little split. You'll see what I'm doing here. I'm just going to give this a split like that. Very nice. And we'll do the same thing here, like this. See how easy that splits? That's just so nice and green. They save all that stuff. I might want to make something else with it. All right, put that away. Put this away. I'm going to take a 1-inch chisel, and I'm just going to you call it planing it if you wanted to, I guess. I'm going to clean it up. I'm going to make it clean. Kind of flat. Good place to start. You could probably do this with a plane. You could do it with a carving knife. I kind of like to use the chisel. But you could do it any way you want. This is the way I've been doing it for years. So far, so good. Nice. This is the top of the wings. Down here will be the bird. So, just so you know where I'm heading. It's very, very interesting. It's all about a young man that was sick in Russia, in a little building, and he wanted someone to come back, and his dad said he'd make him a bird. He made the first fan bird. He was a basket weaver, according to the legend, and he hung it up in front of the fireplace, and it started to fly, and the little boy got better, and he woke up thinking it was spring, which is kind of cool. After I read the legend, I decided to make these things. Now what this is actually the pattern of the wing. Right here, this circle, if I slice down here, slice down here, slice down here, always stopping right here. I got to stop it right there. That's going to be the design of the wing. This has to go all the way across here like this. That is my stop point. That's what every time I come down here with a knife, it'll stop right there. As I keep going, you'll see why. I'm going to cut here. I'm going to cut here. And I'm going to cut here. Now what I'm doing, I'm going to take this wood out, and part of this wood out, where you got the arrow. See the arrow there? I'm going to take this wood out. As I keep going, you'll see me doing it. This is fairly flat right now. And the only reason I'm saying it's fairly flat is because I want to start taking this wood out now, so there's no reason to flatten it all. Save yourself some energy. So, what we're going to do, we're going to start doing a little bit of carving now, which is probably more fun than that scraping stuff. Now, here goes the beginning. This is the beginning. Before you know it, we'll have a bird. Maybe. Nice and green. Remember, that's the secret. This is called green wood carving, because that's what I'm doing. I'm carving everything green. Now, I'll put that there. Take this out. This is just another gouge of a sort. Just cleaning up my cut a little bit. Okay, now, I did that line there. I'll do exactly the same thing here. Going right across. Keeping that as straight as possible. We'll turn it the other way. All right, we're getting there. Now we're making our design, the beginning of it. Take that out of there. Now what this is going to be called, from this point forward, those two lines are going to be known as the interlock. And that's where this bird is going to interlock at the tips of the wings. As we keep going, you'll see what I'm talking about. I know it sounds strange, but it's true. It is a true story. We're going to make a hummingbird here. And the reason is, I like hummingbirds. If you like hummingbirds, stick with me. If you don't, wait till I do another one, I'll do a blackbird. We go right here. Okay. Perfect. This is the easy part. We're making the V, and in a minute we'll make it on the other side. And we'll clean it up. Piece of cake. There you go, see how we're cleaning that up? There it goes. Do the same thing over here. Good. Now take it down some more. What this is called the hinge. The hinge is where it's going to attach on the back of the bird. And I want to say that this is going to be a hummingbird. Okay. So you get the idea. Somewhere right there, it's going to be the beak. I may go straighter out with it, I don't know yet, but somewhere there will be the beak. Somewhere in here will be the head. And this is the back. The head can come up like this. This is the back of the bird right here. I am going to take that down to about the thickness of a toothpick. And that's where we're going to fold it. And you watch me fan these birds. After I rive it, I'll cut this first, and then I'll bring that down to the thickness of a toothpick. Just so you know where I'm heading, that's where I'm heading. So now we're going to take this, get my mallet, and let's go down on this side. Well, welcome back, everybody. We have cooked the wood. It has been boiled for 4 or 5 hours, soaked in the water overnight. I put it in a couple of plastic bags, kept it cold in the refrigerator, and now we are ready to work on it again today. So we're going to have some fun today. I'm going to teach you what riving is today. If you remember, that's where I split the fibers of the wood. But before I do that, I've got a little more shaping to do. So we'll shape up the wood a little bit more, and then we will rive it. That'll be the next thing that we do. Now, if you look close at the wood, you'll see all these little spots. Not only will you see how wet the wood is, but you're going to see all these pitch spots. The pitch has actually been cooked out of the wood. Some of it. There's still some in there, but this was fairly fresh wood to start with. Sometimes I have to cook it a lot longer than that. Depends on the moisture in the wood. Shaping the feathers. These will be the feathers. It will fly, I'm sure. It's a joke. Okay. Kind of fly. Okay, there you go. Now these designs, everyone is different. All you have to remember is that this part is the interlock, and this part down here is going to be the hinge. And that's what's going to make it all work. So as long as we have a hinge In an interlock, we can use all kinds of different shapes and designs. And that's why you can't find two birds that are the same. They don't need to be. They want to be different. They're like me, everything's different. And right here, where you see me taking it off, this is where I'll take this down to about the thickness of a toothpick right there when I'm done. Okay, this is a vise, and I am now, this is the bird that I'm going to do. So I want to start at this end. That'll be my tail. So I'll cut that way, and I'll come this way until I get to about here, and I'll stop. Now watch what I do. Now I'll tell you that this is probably the toughest part about making a bird, is knowing how to do this. If you don't do this right, you can't fold it. Then you end up with no bird. The spoke shaver, also known as my riving knife. Now we are gonna, hold on, let me double check this, make sure I'm right. Yep, okay. I'm wrong, I want to start that way. There we go, now I'm right. Okay, now I stand up. And watch what I do here. I'm going to take a little slice right off of this. This is, I'm going to do this. Now watch. Do it again. What I'm doing is I'm going to do that until I get it nice and square. That's nice. There it is. One. Buy one of these little spoke shavers and practice doing this for a while. Believe me, it is the hardest part about making the bird. I fought this. When I first tried doing it, nobody told me I had to cook the wood first. Just shattered every time I tried to do it, and I'd shake my head and say, what the heck? How do these people do this? And I see these birds, and I was flabbergasted. Finally, somebody told me the truth. You got to boil it first. So now we boil. Got it. It's harder to go through the knots than it is the. I'm not supposed to use wood with knots, but sometimes we do. Not on purpose, but it was in there. In a while. Okay, we'll take the vise, get it out of the way, and we'll bring this board back up. Now we're going to start, that's the tail. We'll get rid of that one, it's no good. Get rid of that one. Oh, maybe that's a good one. Okay. All right, now we're going to trim this down a little bit. See that? Here comes the bird. He's in there. Now if you look close, you can see where I've started to draw the bird. This is where it's going to stay attached. I'm going to take this off. That'll make sense in a minute. Ah, did you see that? Gone. Don't need that part. Now you see the bird? These are the wings. Now we'll shape it. Now we'll shape it. Now I can hold on to this. There we go. There we go. One hummingbird coming up. There's a lot of different ways to do this. I could take a saw and cut this with a machine saw if I wanted to, but that's not how I do them. I like to do them all by hand. See, I can hold that now by the what will be the beak, so that I can round off the sides. See that? Just making it nice and smooth. Nice. Same thing on this side. You gotta always go with the grain. This side goes easier than the other side did. You could sand and sand and sand this. I can get it down nice and smooth. Leave it a little rough. You can do whatever you want to do with it. You know, it's your little project. But here we go. Now I'm going to finish working on this little. Now, if I should break this, I'd make it a different bird. So, the hinge, the hinge, the hinge. I want to put it back in the bag for a couple of minutes. Let that water get into this hinge that I'm making right here. Let the water get in there really good. Then after the water gets in there really good, we're going to turn around and fold this thing, and I'm going to show you what it looks like when I'm done. Let's take a little break and let this soak in some water. Okay, so what I want to do now, while this bird is soaking, I want to explain to you the different ways you can make the birds. This is just a little bird, a little body, but if you look really close, you'll see his tail. That tail is grass. And I wove the grass in between the tail after I folded it when it was still green. Then let it dry. That's totally different. I love that little bird. Now you can get so creative and have so much fun. I'm going to show you another one that I don't think anybody in the world except me does. Now that's a cool looking bird, right? But it doesn't even start to get cool until you look at the tail. Look real close at that tail. Now, look at this. These long ones and these green ones are all attached. There's one piece of wood. I did that when it was green and wet. During the folding process, I carved this different at this end. Those are the first five that came out. The next 6 that came out, I left them long like that. Now, I told you earlier that I really like little hummingbirds. So here's a couple of little hummingbirds. But look, this is still one piece of wood. On this side, I actually drilled a hole through the wood. Then I rived it, and then I folded it. This one, I drilled a hole in a little ways. And I folded these long ones and brought them into the holes for that tail. Check that tail out. That's an interwoven tail, which I don't think anybody else does those. I've never seen them done anywhere else. That's interwoven. This is still one piece of wood, and they're lovebirds. I think that's pretty wild. All right, it's soaked. It's ready to go. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the tail. fold, fold, interlock. There's your interlock. Do one more interlock, like this. Interlock, see the interlock? Now that's going to be the tail of the bird. Now I'm going to take this one, I'm going to pull it forward, push it over, watch me now, take this one here, push it forward, push it over, see that? Now, take this one, do the same thing. Interlock it. This one here, I'm going to interlock it. But you can feel the fibers breaking as I'm doing that. It's like a tree, you know, when you go to cut a tree down, it's still held on by that little tiny bit and you cannot get it off. I'll tell you what, I could take a giant man and ask him to pull that as hard as he possibly could, and he cannot pull it out. It's only a few strands. That's all you need are a few strands. This is still soaking wet. All right, now look, I'm folding now, interlocking. I'm going to, every other side, that's all I'm doing. Interlock. Okay, now here we go again. Pull, interlock. Pull, interlock. Now I'm looking at this and I'm saying, you know what? I kind of like that bird like that, but I want a full tail. So instead of continuing to do the front feathers, I'm going to start making a big fat tail. Because I want to. I can do what I want to do. Once you've done this though, remember you cannot undo it and do it again. Unless you do it right now. I mean, you can do it right now, but can you see how thin it is? Okay, here we go. Now some of these are not quite as thin as the other ones because you can't be perfect. You do the best you can, that's all. 5 left.
We are going to
2,
continue
3, 4,
with the
5, 6,
video
7, 8, 9,
until towards
2,
the
3,
end,
4,
but I
5,
would like to
6,
thank you for
7,
joining
8,
us
9,
this
10.
morning, and we'll be
Perfect.
back
So
on
this
Friday.
one here goes over here to make 10 over there. So it's exactly the same. I'm going to let that dry. After that dries, I'll cut that off with a pair of fingernail clippers. Let it dry first. There's your bird. Is that cool? Now you can paint him, hang him, set him somewhere, whatever you want to do. Put him up this way and let him sit and dry like that if you want to. Dry it for 3 or 4 days. Then you can paint it, shellac it, leave it natural, whatever you want. And that's how you make a Russian fan bird. Thank you.